Hey there, you are listening to Sacred Erotic with Gila Nehemia. And I have a special guest today. I am interviewing Radhaa Nilia. And without further ado, I'll have Radha introduce herself and we'll get into our juicy topic today.
Okay. Hello, my name is Radhaa Nilia. So honored to be here with you, Gila. We've connected before, and I just love your podcast and show. I am an author of Kuan Goddess Activations workbook, and I work with women healing heart and soul wounds. I also work with men. I have a background in filmmaking. I've done directing before. I've run Best Director. So I'm a multimedia artist, and that falls into healing as well. I have a new book coming out called The Galactic Goddess, and a publishing company called Radhaa Publishing. It's because I believe that it's time that light workers and starseeds get their voices out. I'm here to share what I know, but I also think everyone has something to share. So that's it.
Wow, that is great. I think it's so true. I too believe that everyone has something to share. And I believe actually that when you share your story, you allow others to share theirs. So
Yeah.
we're all connected in that way.
Yeah, and I'll just touch on it just very briefly, but the book, The Galactic Goddess, is really a culmination of stories of different adventures that I've been on. But it's not just like happy, glamorous stories. They're real life stories, and I really am unveiling myself. The reason why I often use myself as an example is because it often gives people permission to also unveil themselves.
Mhm.
I don't think I should go on a pedestal and be like, I'm perfect. I would rather share my imperfections and also the silver lining from everything that you learn in life rather than trying to just tell people as it is. So I do use myself as an example a lot because I think we learn from examples.
Definitely. Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I think that it's really helpful for other people to hear each other's stories because then we connect emotionally. And
Yes.
that trigger, it opens us up to feeling that we really are important. We really do have something to say.
Everyone does, and it's amazing because I'd worked with people for so long, one to one, in my private practice, and sitting down, and most of the time it's listening to people's stories. And I found that my heart just kept opening and opening up because I was like, every time someone shares their most intimate story with me, I can't help but fall in love with them. Not like a romantic, but just my heart completely opens. I'm like, I love this human being. And I was, they would tell me all of these things. And the more they shared, the more I could feel this really universal love for them. So I realized that actually when we are um, open enough to share parts of ourselves that we may be like shadow self or be afraid of or are ashamed of, that truly there can be a great healing in just being witnessed. And so that's why it's so important for people to share stories. And we find that I think our lives weave together. And so many times when we hear someone's true, authentic, intimate story, we see how we actually are so much more alike than different.
Yes, that's so true. And you said so many things there, and I actually I'm going to weave it back into what we're going to be talking about. So, Rather and I talked about intimacy. Right now, you just mentioned intimacy and sexuality. I feel for myself as part of intimacy. And actually, it's been, some people are questioning me, and I talk about eroticism. Part of my whole message is about eroticism and healing, and eroticism being a sacred act or sacred sexuality and healing. So I'd just like you to, to kind of start that ball rolling of, I know you've been doing some work on that. So I'd like to hear your point of view, and then I will chime in with mine.
Absolutely. I'm just seeing more and more how important it is that we are coming back to ourselves. And as we come back to ourselves, we are wanting different things in our intimate relationships. We're wanting more connection. We are wanting more intimacy. We are wanting, we want to come back to devotion, because devotion, when we have devotion in our hearts, it connects us to the devotion with the divine, that spark of light, and we want that reflected back. You know, in our society, I'm in the West, you know, we really push sex very hard here, but then we also shame it very hard. It's like, you can't be, you know, you're a disgusting pervert, but here, buy some porn, more porn. I'm going to sell you a hamburger, and some girl with triple D's is going to be presenting it to you. You're going to get turned on and you're going to buy it. So there's a really big conflict and a rift in sexuality. And we really push a lot of porn here, but then we say that it's really bad at the same time. And so what happens is there grows, that's where like this energy starts to grow of shame and guilt, and also obsessive compulsive sexual behavior. And a lot of women come to me because they're very unsatisfied in the bedroom or in their relationships, but that includes the bedroom. And so as we go deeper, as I talk to these women, what's really at the bottom of it is the desire for intimacy, the desire to connect in a way that's divine, that's holy. You can have sex and it can be holy sex. You can experience divinity, and actually sex can be a form of prayer and meditation with a beloved. But cultivating that relationship can be very challenging in a society where we have so much social media, and men are just trained to just worship what I call the false goddess. The false goddess is something I know very much about, because in my journey going through Hollywood, and since I was sort of programmed with a false goddess from a very young age, and it was never my parents' fault. It came outside, it was a poison that infiltrated. It happened to be with my first Barbie doll when I took her clothes off, and she had, I mean, boobs that are probably out to here if she was a real person, plastic, you know, and then those messages keep coming as a little girl. You need to be a princess, you need to be perfect, you need to be beautiful. Your value is based on your ability to be pleasing, to be good, and to be sexy and beautiful at all times. That's the value system that those are the messages that were coming around me. And so that pulls a feminine away from her divine truth, that pulls her away from her sacred sexuality. She's an ornament and not a human being. And this is also the perception of men, that women should be rather ornaments rather than being human. So we are coming to a time where we're commanding our humanness again. We want humanity, even in the bedroom. We want divinity. We're tired that the way the society is throwing this garbage, fast food, sex, and love at us is not fulfilling our deepest appetite for connection to the divine.
It's so interesting that you discuss this, you know, because that's, you know, very similar to my own message. You know, I personally have experienced something like that. And, you know, to be honest, it was my whole life of yearning for it and making choices that were, I don't know how to say it, but making choices that weren't at par to my own yearning, to my own desire. And when I began to actually follow my desire, it led me to a very high level of divinity. You know, I actually felt it. And I was like, whoa, you know, if I can feel it, everyone can feel it. It's not just for me. And when I realized that, I was like, well, I can't shut up anymore. You know, I can't just have it in the bedroom and then be a different girl outside. You know, I just can't do it. You know, so I had to embody it. But I have to tell you that embodiment comes to our next point of healing. You know, it's just like I had to, like you were saying about the Barbie doll, I had to let go of some of the ways I was playing a chameleon, you know, in my life, of being like one woman this way when I was in the office, and another woman like, you know, when I was hanging out with my friends. You know, I just couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah. because we're coming to a place where we want to integrate into wholeness. We are coming into a place where we're desiring to be the fullness of our being. It's like we are a flower, and you can't just be one petal. You have to be all of it. And really, sacred sexuality is truly at the middle of it. And that flows out into all areas of your life. And if you're denying yourself that, then things are not going to flow for you. Your heart won't be open. And so it's interesting because I'm crossing over now and working and talking with men too, because they're not getting what they want. If you can't show up and you can't give a woman what she wants, like emotionally, sexually, you're also not going to get what you want either. It's a two-way street. And a lot of women have been withdrawing emotionally, energetically. They're like, I'm not going to invest anymore until I'm getting also what I want. Because as women, we are eternal givers. We are, we love to give. We're good at giving. We're mothers, we're nurturers, we are lovers, we're receivers. And the feminine is not saying I'm better than you. It's saying, meet me here. I don't want to be met here anymore. Mm-hmm. You need to level up. I'm not making you wrong. I'm asking you to show up fully so that you can also receive me fully. And we're desiring, our desire pulls us forward. It's not a bad thing, but we need to refocus our desire. Are you going to focus on pornography as your desire? And that leads nowhere. It actually creates gray matter in the brain. It actually destroys you in your mind, in your heart, and your body. And it destroys connection. And so, with all of this stuff going on, social media, guys can just follow all kinds of girls that are still on the false goddess track. And that's what I call it. And I was also one of them. So, coming back to my divinity opened me back to the true goddess within. It was only when I came back and took back what was mine, my divinity. And everyone can do that, no matter what you've been through. Your divinity is your divine right. And it is time to call back that sacredness. It is time. I don't want to live in a world that is this culture anymore. So I can't change anyone on the outside. I can only change myself from within. I can only command that someone show up for me in a way that reflects back that divinity within me. And with the women I work with, I'm like, you cannot change the men. This is not about manipulating. It's not about, that is like the old paradigm of manipulation to get what you want. Mm-hmm. This is about standing your ground and showing up in a way that invites men to come in. And we have to teach men, we have to teach men there's a new way, that there's a better way, that they don't have to go online and get, these kinds of thrills. Like we want to find a way where they can connect with us, because it takes away from our soul connection. And really we want, in a divine relationship, we're uniting. And if someone's not showing up, it's like we're not being met. And if we're not being met, we can't show up. And that's where the separation happens. That's why we have so much separation. We want sacred union. We want divinity. We want love. And love has got to come from a different place. It's got to come from a true place. It's got to come from intimacy. And sex is the most powerful, beautiful thing in the world. And we have to come back to the sacredness of sex and let go of the poison that's been injected into our thoughts and our hearts and our minds about it.
Wow, there was so much there. I'm gonna ask you a few questions. So a few men have actually approached me, and I'm just not at that place now where I'm open to working with men. I'm working with women at the moment, but I hear you. I think that men are looking for like one question just popped up the other day of like how do you do this? How do you connect your erotic desire to healing? and also just about the sacredness of it. I think, you know, as I was just telling Radha before we started the call, you know, I was just listening to something by Jason Silva about brain commingling. You know, it just really, it echoes sacredness, because when you are, even with a woman, you know, even same sex or different sex, it doesn't really matter, because I think that when people are on the same frequency, and I feel it's important to talk about vibration and frequency at this point, because, you know, when you're having sacred sex with whomever you know your partner is, there is something that happens when you're both on the same frequency in the vibration, and it's like it's this metaphysical, you know, connection to the divine. And for me personally, I wasn't even aware of it fully, you know, as I was going through it. But as I kept healing and raising my vibration, I realized this whole change that occurred within me, you know, and it was kind of like I was in amazement of it, to be honest with you, because I didn't really walk into the situation thinking it was going to happen, you know, but I did desire it, you know, so that is where I am coming from. I took my desire to its highest level, and it took me there. And I think everyone has a different path, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Everyone has a unique path, and it's not always going to look the same. But one thing for sure is that desire will call you forward. Desire will pull you forward. It is the desire for intimacy, one way or another. It's a desire to connect on a higher level. We've been, you know, you think about, like in the 1960s, you know, we had, in America, we had very different roles. I think about my grandmother and how, you know, she lived a life where she wasn't in love with her husband. She played mommy, and she did the things that she played her role, the apron, the whole thing. She made the food, but she had not been living in her desire. She had denied herself, because that's how it was for women. Although we had freedom, right? We had freedom, but not the freedom to choose something deeper. You know, we had to play our roles. We've come to a place where we have more of a freedom, but there's also more toxicity out there. There are so many images. The music now is not affirming love. The movies are not affirming love. The media is not affirming love. The dating sites are not affirming love. We are in an affirmation zone where everything is pulling us apart from our right to really be in union. And union is a powerful healing force in the world. When two people can come together in sacred union, they are creating a atmosphere, a huge vibrational resonance that goes across the world. They're creating peace, harmony, and it is a huge contribution. When I see two people that are truly in love, I say, bless you. May you really be happy forever. May you continue your blessings, because there are so many, you know, I won't go into it, but what I consider dark forces, negativity, entities, distractions that will come and try to destroy your relationship. There is something about the vibrational resonance, because when two people come together, they are now raising the vibration. And there are certain, you know, energies that do not want that, because it would shift everything for us. We wouldn't be so easy to be manipulated. We would be strong in who we are. And then we would not be easy targets to be consumers. We won't be brainwashed as easy. When we're separated, we're very malleable, easy to manipulate. When we come together in sacred union, we're rock solid. And so it's not for the benefit of, you know, the big industry, whatever you want to call it, to have us in divine union. I'm an advocate of divine union, because we need that love to permeate across the world. And every time I see two people in divine union, celebrating it, I'm like, yes, 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 yes. I'm a lover, not a hater. I want to see more people in divine union and happiness, for sure.
Yes, for sure. I agree with you. You know, every time I see something and you can sense it, the thing is you can feel it. I can see it, you know, a picture of a couple on Facebook, or I could see a couple in front of me, you know, like I can feel it. And you're exactly right. You know, it's not just, it's about the two people, but it's also about the reverberations that it creates around the world. You know, I know personally from in my own life, to just give an example for those who are listening who may not be understanding. Um, in my own life, as soon as I engaged in this, or we began the union, or we, whatever you would call it, I don't even know, but my whole life changed. You know, and it wasn't just me; it was my children, it was everyone I connected with, it was my clients. You know, it just boggled my mind that if this is possible for me, imagine, you know, people that our clients and their lives. You know, it's a domino effect of really raising the vibration of the universe.
Yeah, because when we're happy inside, when our hearts are happy, we can give so much more. We're coming from a place of fullness, not depletion. And and and, and the thing is those fast food tricks, the porn, all of the engine, that energy of that quick fix is not fueling the soul, the heart. What fuels the heart and soul is the true essence of the divine connection. It's the heart chakra connection. This merge of the heart chakra creates powerful reverberations. And sexuality is like what comes through. We can connect through sex. We can create powerful energy through sex. You know, there are a lot of people that use sex in a negative way, like sex magic, but it's dark, and they use it to create more power, but it's not sustainable power. When you're not coming from your heart chakra, you will always be depleted. You will be a vampire, and you will always need to suck the life force from outside, another, to fill. When you stop and you come into your own self, when you choose to connect to the divine and follow that path, you're now self-sufficient. Mm-hmm. And so when two people that are self-sufficient come forward and come into union, there's nothing more powerful in the entire world. So many people have been lied to about quote unquote power. There are a lot of people that use sex in a very toxic, negative, and harmful way, and they think they're creating power, and it doesn't last. It's not sustainable, and it's not authentic, because you are cut off from the divine. If you're not coming from a place of love, you will not win. You will lose in the end.
Yes, that's so true, and I think that you know, I want to kind of reiterate that balance that you were describing. You know, I think that many of us, I know I came from, you know, probably eons, generations of fear. You know, fear, just like you described of your grandmother. You know, it's all in my family line. And to be honest, you know, I'm in India now, and my parents are from India. And one of the reasons I came here and I feel like a portion of it has been completed for me, is to release some of the karmic cords that bind me to that kind of mentality. And it really did. I did some serious spiritual cleansing. But, you know, I invite my clients in whatever shape or form that is going to mean to them, whether they travel or it's just, you know, I feel like all of the wisdom is within us to really follow our paths to divinity, and it will take us to divine love, each and every one of us, because that's what we are.
That's what we are. We just forget, and we get distracted, and we think what we see is what's real. And that's why, you know, with my clients, you know, it's all about coming back to yourself, but then about creating sacred boundaries. And I want to touch on the importance of creating sacred boundaries. When you find a beloved, when you are with a beloved, it's very important to protect your union. There are many energies and forces that, you know, will want to come in and infiltrate. Also, people get jealous. There's jealousy, because a lot of people do not like to see other people happy and in love. And I can't understand that, because I feel so inspired to see people in divine union. I'm like, yes, okay, another one down, right? and my hope is that everyone can find each other, you know? So it is of utmost importance to protect a sacred union. If you are lucky enough to find a beloved, you must cherish this beloved. You must honor this beloved. You mustn't plant seeds of doubt and threaten the relationship and the union. You mustn't bring in other, like, you know, a lot of times men think in this culture, well, there are sexy women everywhere, you know, there are magazines or this and that, and it's okay to have it all around the house, and it's not going to affect my relationship. What does it matter? That's not real. It's a fantasy, but you're real. And that's not true. Those images, that energy, the vibrational resonance of that comes, and it does infiltrate the relationship and the union. The house should be set up in a way that it's always reaffirming only the divinity between the two, you know, family, you know, beautiful pictures of the couple, right? You don't want to have pictures up of a nude girl. It's just not right, because that creates doubt. It creates, and once you start to create seeds of doubt in the feminine, and then this is what I see and work with all the time, now they're retracting, they're pulling back. They don't know if they can trust him. They don't feel safe. They don't feel like the beloved that they are. They feel that they're not the most important person in their life. And a woman should be considered the queen, as the man should be considered a king. That's really what a union is. And you are creating your own kingdom. So you must rid yourself of like toxic material, toxic things, anything that would threaten the relationship at all. If somebody has a person that's calling all the time and you guys are trying to create something sacred, but there's always a third party there, you need to eliminate that. You have to start with a fresh, clean slate, like a canvas. If you have junk and other residue on there, it will grow and it will infiltrate. And that's where people are always having problems. They're like, oh, well, I have this friend, and they always have like a third party energy, even if it's not sex. If there's a third party energy that has a sexual connotation to it, you're not protecting your relationship. You're not protecting your sacred love. And that's not to say that men and women can't have different, opposite sex friends, but it's about talking about the comfort and creating a verbal understanding of what's okay and what's not okay. If someone's going to fight somebody over this, if it's going to be a fight, that's going to ruin the relationship too. You have to choose your battles, and you have to say, okay, that's not worth it. You're worth it. You have to keep choosing each other over and over and over and over again. And most people don't have the stamina or inner strength to do that. But that's where you reap the rewards. The greatest rewards come when you're willing to continue to stand for your beloved over and over again. It's not about perfection. No one is perfect, okay? It's about showing up again and saying, I choose you, and I'm choosing you again, and I'm choosing you again. And when two people do this, it creates such strength and power and a foundation that becomes unshakable. And so as we moving into creating a sacred physical space for two beloveds. Now, not everyone has this space for it, but if you do, if you have a little extra room, create a sacred playroom, a pleasure room, where you actually it's like a beautiful room, and you're going to put tapestries or whatever it is that when you walk in, you feel like you're walking into another world, a world that you want to be in. You create pillows and soft things, and have your music and your candles and incense, and you can have whatever. You can have a little closet with your toys, whatever suits your fancy, but creating a sacredness. And this is very symbolic. So we create the sacred room, but also in the relationship, we're creating sacred boundaries. Mm-hmm. We're saying, what are we putting inside of this between us, this room between us? You can't have the junk and have the sacredness. You have to choose one or the other. It's non-negotiable. And so a playroom is so beautiful, because you can really create that space where you only go in there to be with your beloved and to make love. And it's not about making love fast. It's about just being in the sacred presence. It's a meditation.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. Mm-hmm.
It really is. It's like a tantra, but you don't actually have to be taught. It always interested me, like when I would go and listen to people and they would be learning tantra, and I was like, whoa, it must have been innately in me when I met my beloved, because it was just that's exactly what it was. It was a meditation. And yes. and I want to also include that playroom could even be in nature, because nature, I feel, is so accepting and loving and being, that it allows you the space to really just be you. And it allows the both of you actually to come, because I feel like the balance is also accepting yourself. And another thing I just wanted to say was, this path is not always straight. It may be for some people, but for many, it may not be a straight path. But as you so eloquently said, it's that commitment, it's that choosing over and over again that gives it the strength to withstand everything.
Yeah, and this is true. I'm going to tell you that when you find your beloved, you'll be challenged like you've never been challenged before. Your beloved will bring up your greatest insecurities. Your beloved will challenge you. It may be difficult. It's not the easy path. The easy path is that you just get along with, and it's whatever, humdy hum, but the beloved is ecstasy. The beloved is it's cosmic. It's a cosmic love. It expands you, and it also challenges you. So if you're not up for a challenge, choose a humdy hum path. You won't get the erotic sex, that's for sure. That's explosive. That intergalactic sex that everybody wants. You're gonna get humdy hum sex. So it's a choice. Do you choose? Are you gonna choose to step your game up? Choose humdy hum. I mean, everyone has a choice, and so being that it is a challenge, there are moments where it can be explosive, where you come together in union and boom, it's here, and then you come back together, and it's like that, because we also need time to grow. Because your beloved will help you grow like no one's ever helped you grow in your life. You'll expand. You'll see things in a different light. But it also challenges you. And we come to our threshold on so many levels of pleasure, our ability to think differently, and to have compassion and really open up to vulnerability, which I think is a very, very, very challenging for men, to feel vulnerable. And so for the masculine, your beloved may open up parts of you didn't know existed. Your heart will expand in ways you didn't know even existed before. You're going to feel things and you're going to go, whoa, am I like going crazy, or what is going on? And no, you're not going crazy. Your heart, your high heart, is expanding in a way that you've never known was possible, because we've been suppressed and we've been going humdy hum. Now we're like, whoa, oh my gosh, everything is being challenged. The way that I feel, I don't know if I feel safe. And I want to tell the feminine, when you find your beloved, he will also may feel insecure because of his emotions that come forward. He will feel things he didn't know he could feel, and he's going to think that's like feminine, that I shouldn't feel this way. I never felt this great passion in my heart. And I also didn't feel this fear, because the fear of losing your beloved when you find your beloved is big. Most masculines are in control, right? And so there's a process where there's an ego death for the masculine, which is very painful for them. they will start to, parts of them will start to unravel, and they may need space. They may need to pull away, and so for the feminine to be compassionate, that in order for your divine masculine to come and be with you, he has to do some shedding too on his own, and you just have to stand for his love, just stand for him, unwaveringly stand for him. Even if you're not in the sacred union, understand that he will come back if you hold that space. And that's why it's important to be strong inside of yourself, because when you create inner strength, you are creating a foundation. And I always say meditation is so important, at least once a day. Even if it's 5, 10, 15 minutes, please sit down and meditate. And then when you come together with your beloved, meditate together. This will strengthen your bond. It will strengthen your union, and it will strengthen your spiritual connection. And it also creates a protective barrier around you, so that other energies cannot infiltrate. People, if they're jealous or something's coming at you, it's going to bounce off. That is a protective grid you're creating. And love is a grid. When we are making love with somebody, we're creating a grid around us. And we want to protect that. Protect what you have. Honor it, love it, cherish it, and protect it fiercely. And that takes inner strength, and that takes practice, and it takes healthy meditation ritual too.
Yeah, and another note I just wanted to add is, I've been reading up about this for quite some time, and what is union? Union to me is like when you meet this beloved, and you've gone through some trials already, and it's always this kind of coming and going, or whatever path that you find yourself on with them. I feel that as soon as I met my beloved, that was union. It's an ongoing process, of what it's going to mean in the physical, but it's never going away. It's like, that's it. And you're right, and actually I think that once I made that decision, commit to it, it is an ego death for both of us. We have to both go through a process. We're mirrors of each other. And as you are strengthening yourself and just that heart opening, I've lived a pretty long life, and I never ever experienced something like this. And that, and I even asked God, I asked my guides, I was like, give me my highest journey. And I've many times I've received lots of messages. So those of you who are on this path, incorporate all your powers, because you are a truly powerful being, and you need to trust your own heart in this, because no one can really tell you about it. It's really, we can all guide you and support you, but you like you said earlier, that everything is within us. Everything's already there.
Yeah, it's so true. We do need to activate our inner navigation, and also maybe not seeking so much validation from the outside, because your friends will always have they may have a different opinion. Who your beloved is when you meet them, and interestingly enough, it may even activate and flare up insecurities in others. Because when you find your beloved, you will start to shift and change. You're going to start to become more of who you truly are. Now, that can threaten your community. It can threaten your family. It could threaten other people that are very close to you. So they'll say they're bad for you. We don't like them. This happens, right? So it's very important to be discerning within yourself. How does it make me feel? How do I feel after I'm with them? How do I feel when I am with them? It's really about awakening more of your consciousness, because you are the one who will live with this person for the rest of your life. People come and go, and people die, if a family dies, or, things happen, and we have to choose wisely our beloved, because it is the biggest investment you'll ever make is in love. Greatest investment you'll ever make, is what you get back is most incredible. and yet it shapes every aspect of your life. You know, it's in so many facets. So yeah, you want to be discerning, but you must ask yourself from within, that I love, that loves me, that I can grow with, that I can expand with. Do they challenge me? And you know, people are so afraid of being challenged. So many men especially are afraid of being challenged. When they feel a challenge coming from a feminine, they want to run away. You're like, whoa, wow, I thought you were strong. But you know, it threatens the ego. And so you know, you have to be, both parties have to be very strong. But it's a beautiful gift. It's a gift from the divine to meet your beloved. So cherish that gift. Cherish it.
Yes, definitely. And you know, and just a one more note is, like, I grew up in as a South Indian, so I grew up with a lot of Hindu mythology, and I grew up with actually all these like divine love. You know, they would talk about all the time this divine love, and I really thought that's what love is. You know, I never thought, oh yeah, you're going to have these issues, but you know, whatever, fear. I never really thought about it that way. And so when I met my beloved, it's like everything clicked. I was like, of course I thought about it that way, because, you know, I have met you. Like, this is what it's supposed to be. So I think for everyone, it's like that. You know, I think for all of us, why do we search? You know, why are we always looking and not quite satisfied? Well, because there is something more, because there is another energy that really gels with you on so many levels.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. Yeah, and I'm named after goddess Radha. So you know, Radha, she has the infinite longing for the divine. I used to hate my name, not because she's a beautiful goddess, but because it made me so upset. Like, whoa, she's crying out for the divine. Her whole life is dedicated to longing for that divinity, and I felt that reflected so much in my life. And yet in that longing for the divine experience, it made me search and look under every rock, and it made me curious, and it made me wonder. And people are always like, you know, I try one healing modality and I get certified, then I do another, and they're like, don't you think you have enough training, certification? I'm like, well, I'm curious. I want to know more. I can't stop learning and growing. And so it's interesting, because I always thought that was like, I was like, oh, you cursed me with the name of Radha, because she's crying and longing and calling out for the divine. But the truth is that longing and calling for the divine is what gave her the goddess status, because she was a daughter of I believe a farmer. You know, she was a goat herder. But it doesn't matter. You can come from the mundane, but you yourself can become extraordinary through your inner desire that pulls you forward. And so I later understood that it was my superpower and my gift, that longing for the divine. Although I did cry many tears, and I was told, like, you'll cry a lot because you have that mole right there, crying out, you know, for the divine. But I don't regret it. I'm grateful, because the gift brought me so much, you know. And I want to tell people who are watching, like, if you're wondering, like, oh, this seems so hopeless and there's no one out there, and you know, all of these things, like, yeah, I wish that my beloved was out there. Well, your beloved is out there, but you have to start in here. It comes with the desire. It comes with the longing, the yearning, and the aching. Even those pangs of pain of like, oh, if only I could have this. Use that to cultivate yourself. Use that energy to grow. How can I cultivate myself? How can I expand myself? How can I heal my lineage wounds that come 7 generations? Because as you said earlier, Gila, you know, you've had to shed a lot and heal from that. And I am the same. I came, you know, I had a lot of repression, a lot of, there's, you know, Catholic shame, and also from the wars that my family went through. There was a great deal of shame about covering up, hiding so you would not get raped, you know, and that came down through my family. And as a woman, you just do what you're told. And there's just so much sexual shame that actually, when I really rebelled against that, I rebelled against all of that shame. I did the opposite. I got the big boobs. I did all of these things. I went into the false goddess mode. And that was in a way to break out of that repression. But it also harmed me to go there too, you know. So I came back to the polarity, you know, I came back to the center because I polarized from that sexual shame, and especially like in puberty, you know, when you're dating and all of that stuff and everyone's around you like, be careful, or they make it like so gross that you might have sex with somebody for the first time, and all of that shame, it just culminates in your body. And I'm like, oh, I just want to throw it up. It's disgusting. It's not. Shame pulls you away from your divinity. And I had been rebelling against that for so long. I didn't realize I was rebelling against a shame. Like, no, I'm not taking a shame. I'm going to be free. And sexual freedom doesn't come from this, you know, how you look, or if you're, you know, if you're sexy. It comes from within. You know, it comes from within. So I'm grateful for the polarities, because on one spectrum, it was like meditation every day, you know, came from a very spiritual background, but it didn't include sex. It was like, you know, something you didn't even talk about. It was just like, ugh. And then on the other end, I went to the other spectrum, you know, so then you come back to the middle and you find that integration. And then I did a lot of healing work on my lineage shame, healing the shame out of my physical vessel, out of my womb, out of my heart, out of my mind, and understanding that sacred sex is so special, and it's in a whole other category that is untouchable. It's untouchable. And everything else is just garbage. It's just garbage. So throw the garbage away, go to the dumpster, throw away all your garbage and step it up. Because when you go to sacred sex, it belongs to you and your beloved. And it's divine union. And there's nothing that can touch that. No shame, no guilt, no fear. It's pure bliss and it's pure love. And it's a way to connect to source again. So yeah, that was a long tangent about.
No, but that's so true. You know, like what was coming up in what I would, you know, visions of even is like every religion is actually based on divine love, you know, and because I've thought about this, you know, and even here I am in India. I'm traveling. Those of you who don't know me, I'm traveling with my kids. I've left the place that I was living in Israel. And I was actually going to go to like the Khajuraho temples, you know. I know that, you know, obviously everybody knows about the Kama Sutra from India, but it's about that divinity, you know, it's about reaching to that level where, you know, how can you think about now when you put religion and like sexuality in the same line, people are like, what are you talking about? You know, but that's really where it's at, you know, like, religion has taught us to become shameful, but in actual spirituality, it's such a sacred act. It is really a connection to divine love, exactly what you said.
Yeah. And I'm just going to touch on something because I think it's important to talk about, that a lot of the manifestations, the negative manifestations of sexual acts, you know, violations and things like that, they are a manifestation of being disconnected from the divinity, being disconnected from source within self, and just like, you know, porn and all of that stuff, because it's when we shame people that they actually do things that are shameful. You know, why is it that so many, and I'm not going to get into it, but why is it that so many, you know, priests have been caught for being violators of children? Why is that, when, you know, this is supposed to be a sacred place, the church, right? And yet behind closed doors, so much is going on because it's a lack of integration. It's saying that if you're good, you are not going to have sex. That's not true. If you're good, you're going to have great sex with your beloved. You know what I'm saying? And it's the pulling away and separating the two that creates dis-ease. It's mental, emotional, in your heart, physical and spiritual dis-ease. Those distortions create violation, and they create and breed people who are not in alignment with their divinity. And so it's quite dangerous. It's quite dangerous to be so far from your divinity. You want to come home to yourself, come home to your wholeness. We are sexual beings, and I think it's important to integrate this wholeness. And it's just so funny to think of a preacher telling people what you shouldn't do and what's wrong and right, and you're a sinner, and behind closed doors they're harming children. How is that integrative? How does that make sense? Our wholeness comes from embracing all of us. Integration, the light, the dark, all of it. And shadow work is something I do a lot with clients, because I introduce them to meet their shadow. And when we meet our shadow and we meet our darkness, we integrate that. And that's where healing begins, because there's a part of us where we're like, oh, sex is bad, everything is bad, and we push it away. And then monstrous things happen. We manifest really, unsavory things that are harmful for ourselves and others. So in order to come back into alignment, we have to understand we are sexual beings, and that sex is sacred and it's beautiful. And it is one of the greatest ways to connect to the source energy. I can't think of anything more beautiful. It is a meditation, but you have to create it as being sacred. And like I said, just throw away all the other thoughts about sex. Like it's not what we've been taught. It's something far greater than we've been taught.
Right. That's so true. And I think that once we can really come into that wholeness, is that's really where we're growing, and I think those of you who are still on this path, if anyone is triggering you and helping you grow, that may be the person who is your beloved. You will know. But you're right about, I just want to say one other thing about, situations where they're priests and pastors who are doing these sexual acts that don't create any kind of divinity within them. We know, I think, within our intuition when things aren't feeling right. And I actually encourage my children from a very young age, like, trust it all the time. It's right. If you have a bad feeling about something, just run, just get out of it. Because I think, and I give myself as an example, I've never been sexually abused, but I've been in definitely abusive situations where I knew it was wrong. And I just couldn't trust my own feelings and my intuition. And I just let myself, go with my logical mind and continue to go into a deeper and deeper hole, where if I had trusted it, the circumstances would have changed more quickly.
Yeah, I agree with you that it's important to trust your intuition. And I really respect that you tell your children. I wish more parents would tell their children. I wish that I was raised more to listen to my intuition as well. I did come from a very spiritual family, but then my parents divorced at 5, and I was put in a situation that was not nurturing, was not nourishing, was not healthy, and actually cut me off from my ability to trust myself. And so that can be so harmful, because then you don't know how to say no. Then you don't know what boundaries are. Then you don't know how to go into the world and to be safe. And you don't know that you have a voice, because you're told to shut up. You're told not to speak your truth. Mm-hmm. All of these things are things I've had to overcome. And it's been hard. It's been so hard to find your voice after it's been shut down. But, where we have our greatest wounds is also where we have our greatest gifts, And that's also been my gift, is I could unlock my own voice. It took so many years and so many tears. And now I have a gift to help other women and men unlock their voice. And that's why I want to do the collective book, because I want people to share their stories. Your stories matter. When I hear your stories, when others hear your stories, it liberates you, but it liberates us too. And, you know, that's where it's about being shameless, where it's not about, I'm doing things just for shock value. I share only because I think it's healing. That there's a difference there. I don't share things because I want to be shocking. You know, I really want to share because I want the world. You know, I want to heal the world, starting with healing myself. And healing myself means having my voice being heard after it's been repressed for so long. And it's so important for people to have their voices heard. And I love your parenting style where we don't talk to children like they're idiots. Mm-hmm. You know, you talk to children like they're intelligent beings that can make choices. You support their intuition. Mm-hmm. You support their ability to say no. You support them in becoming a powerful and centered and spiritual human being, that way they are contributing to the world because they're coming from a place of fullness, not depletion. So many children turn into adults and they're coming from a place of depletion, and that's where the energetic vampire stuff happens, you know. So we want to create beings that are whole, and as an adult, it's never too late to heal. And I want to tell you that right now, you guys, it's never too late to heal, no matter what you've been through. We've all been through a lot. It is possible because we can pull back our soul fragments. We can pull back our soul fragments from places where it's been taken. And, you know, in shamanism, we call it energetic divorce, where you divorce, you know, we pull cords out, you clear out people and energies and situations that were harmful. You keep the lesson, you download the lesson so you understand it on a soul level, but you don't need to keep it anymore because those things wrap around your heart and it creates, you know, heavy darkness. And we want to free our heart so we can love as fully as possible. It's safe to say everyone's been wounded. And now we're coming to a place where we need to take responsibility for that wounding and decide how are we going to use this wounding as a source of strength and power rather than a place that keeps us from having the love that we want and deserve, you know?
Yes. I just wanted to touch upon, you've said so many things, and I'm sure many of us who are listening and even myself who's participating is just processing all of the information. And really, I think it's also an activation. You know, I think what we do, even in our podcast and our working with our clients, it's activations. You know, we're activating each other, we're activating our hearts, we're activating our chakras. And I wanted to just go back about the shadow work, because I do that as well. And I have to say, you know, even when I was working with my coach and I did my own shadow work, that's where I found most of my light, you know, where it was trapped in, you know, if you can even visualize that, trapped in the forest, you know, because it's so dense and sometimes the sunlight can't come through. But once you allow even a slither, you know, even just a slight bit to come in, you realize the expansiveness that's within the darkness, you know, and that's what kind of blew my mind, that I was like, that's really where you know, you find diamonds, you know, in coal, you know, you find them in dark places because that's really where our light is shining.
Oh, that's so beautiful. You just explained that so well. And you know, it's through the shadows that we also find our strength. Mm-hmm. When we find that, when we can go deep enough into our own darkness, we bring back the gems. We don't have to carry that darkness with us. Actually, we become lighter. Right. Every time I've had a dark night of the soul, and I've had quite a few in my life, I you know, sometimes you feel like this is it, all is lost, you know, but then you go through it and you don't give up. You continue your dedication and the devotion. I'm going to continue showing up. I don't know where this is going. I don't even know if I want to go on, but I'm going to continue going and trusting the process, that as you go deep into the darkness, you are actually healing and clearing, so that when you come back out, the light is illuminating upon you. I have only understood my great strength from going through harrowing darkness. If I had not gone through these harrowing experiences, I would not know my ability to stand in the light, to stand for myself and to stand for others. It has given me power and strength from within. And it's about internal power. Like, I trust my heart more now than ever, because I said, hey, I was there for you. I was there for you through it all. And I've earned my own trust. And I think that earning our own trust is a very important part of being ready for union, because so many times we don't trust our own heart. We've been deviated from it. And so coming back to that trust allows us to show up fully for another if you show fully for yourself.
That's so true. And, you know, I also wanted to mention that there is, my book is just coming, it's a co-authored book, actually, my chapter that I wrote. It's titled Life After Trauma. And it's just really that, you know, it's like going through these harrowing experiences, finding yourself like in the deepest hole that you think, or I felt like I was in, and how can I ever get out? But really, did I ever imagine this radiant, shining light, you know, coming to me from the depths of the darkness? I really had no idea. And even the book that you talked about, that you're collaborating on, that you're, you know, looking for authors for, I mean, I really think all of us have such amazing stories to tell. And what it did for me personally, I just have to share for those of you who are on the fence of whether you should contact Radhaa or not. I'd say do it, because it gives you the space to actually release some of the things that you know, even if you've done the healing, you have to tell it. You know, there's something about telling the story that allows you to go into the new story, that opens you up for the divine union, because you've let it all go, you've released it.
It is so important. I love that you were so courageous to do this. I can't wait to, is the book out? Because I'm going to get a copy of it.
It's pre-ordering now. It's out on December 4th, but you can pre-order it. And it's, you know, I don't think it's like $1 on Amazon. You know, it's really kind of a no-brainer, you know, so just to kind of get your hands on what people are feeling, I think it's
yeah. I would love to get that. Thank you. I may put the link below so that I can just access it. But yeah, that is part of my new vision and dream, is to get people's stories, because I realized that as I sat in a room with people and I do my therapy sessions with them, it was really about them being heard. You know, like we would spend, you know, 45 minutes of them talking about what they wanted to share, and then, you know, 15, 20 or 30 minutes doing energy healing and clearing work. Because really the energy healing and clearing is actually quite quick. Like the clearing is quick, but really what it comes down to is being heard and being understood and being witnessed. And we all need a sacred witness. All of us do. I need a sacred witness sometimes, you know, and I understand the importance of the sacred witness, and to write it out. You know, I mean, I wrote my whole book about all the things that I've been through, and, you know, they could be considered controversial, but it was never about that. It's always about me releasing that so I can move forward to my next journey. It's like I'm dumping this journey and I'm sharing it, but I'm also sharing the silver lining for each chapter, what I learned, because I do not believe that we go through things without a lesson for us. Like our soul called for experiences, even if they were harrowing, so that we could grow. And it's only because I went through things I went through that I was able to hold sacred space for others who also have severe trauma. Had I not gone through that myself, I would not have the compassion to hold space for others. So it's interesting how we are always healing ourselves and simultaneously healing others, because we're choosing that. The path of healing is, to me, so important.
That's so true. And I think that you said it, you explained it so well, because I think that actually our words are healing others just as they're reading them. Yeah, everything that we do when it comes from a place of service and opening of our hearts tends to just heal others. And one thing I just wanted to say was that there's also something about women listening to each other. I don't know what it is, but there is some strength to that. And I know as a young girl, when I was a child, my mother would tell me stories. It comes from like an oral tradition, like your mother tells you stories, your grandmother tells you stories, the women in your house tell stories. And it's almost like a passing down of there's sacredness in that. There's a sacredness of telling the story either orally or written word, because stories have so much layers to them, and we can even read beyond the words, like in the spaces. So that's why I encourage even those who feel like they're not writers. You can tell your story, because there is healing for everyone when you do that, your family, yourself, and so many millions of people that read it.
This is so true. And part of it is also about letting go of the shame in telling your story. I think a lot of people are afraid of being judged. And I could say the same. Well, I'm sharing a lot of very personal things. But I don't feel ashamed of being, or afraid of being judged, because I've come to accept myself fully. And I understand that by me sharing my voice, that others will also know that it's safe, And so in the book collaboration that I'm going to be doing healing, like a healing circle, to clear the blocks of shame, the beliefs that, oh, I'm going to be judged, no one's going to like me after they hear this part of my life that I've tried to keep a secret for so long, yet it's eating me up inside, So what we don't understand is the amount of energy it takes to keep secrets, to keep those secrets, and to be like, oh, I'm going to keep this in a box here, and just pushing it down. And the amount of liberation and energy that comes out and forth when we can just be freaking real and raw and honest and in our hearts and say, take it or leave it, this is me, baby, And guess what? People show up out of nowhere. People show up for you when you're like that, because they love it, because they also want to show up for themselves. And those who are still in the repressive, depressive, and shameful mode will move away, because they're like, your light shining too bright, you're freaking me out right now. And I say, welcome, come back when you're ready, Doors open, darling. And that's okay. So you shouldn't be afraid, because if people are afraid of your story, it means that they have some deeply unhealed parts that they are not willing to open up to as well. And so what I really want to convey is you attract the right people by being your true self. If you wear a mask all the time, you're only going to attract people that wear a mask. And personally, I would rather see people's beautiful hearts and souls. So I know that I'm an intense person, and sometimes, and in my family, I'm considered quite the weird one, right? But I accept that position. And I think we all have a right to shine in our divine weirdness. And also that also calls forth your divine lover, because if you're wearing a mask, like, I'm so perfect all the time, I have no flaws, I've never had any experiences that were painful or harrowing, you're not going to attract your beloved, because your beloved is real, just as real as you are. They've had all the, many experiences too. And when you're willing to put your mask aside, you will find that love will come to you faster and easier, and that you are so lovable for who you are. You don't have to be anything that you're not. Embody what you are, and you will find yourself to be truly irresistible.
Oh, that was so eloquently said. And of course, you know, the Rumi quote came to my mind because I love this quote, but what you seek is seeking you. And I truly believe that. And it's definitely been the case in my life. And I believe it's the case in all of our lives. If we truly connect with our deepest desire, and we set the intention out that that is truly what we want, it's definitely coming to you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Gila.
Thank you, Radha. This has been such an illuminating conversation. Thank you so much for sharing so much with our audience. It's like mind blowing. So the words are just not coming to me, but it's been amazing.
So thank you for holding sacred space. You're an incredible coach, healer, and writer, and also divine lover, and that radiates through you, I think.
Oh,
So
thank you.
an honor to know you, sister, and thank you for having me on your show.
Oh, thank you for being here. And those of you who are interested in contacting Radha about the collaboration, we'll put details in the description. So please do that. And we'll put information on both of our projects. So any of you who are interested, please contact us.
Yes, I'm looking forward to reading your book soon. So
Thank you. Bye bye, everyone. Thanks for listening.